Hello, everyone, and welcome to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed, and this is the review of the new science fiction action film War Machine, which is currently on Netflix. This film stars Alan Ritchson, who we know famously as playing Jack Reacher on Reacher, as well as Dennis Quaid, Stephan James, Courtney, and Esai Morales. In this film, during the final stage of U.S. Army Ranger selection, an elite team's training exercise turns into a fight for survival against an unimaginable threat. War Machine is directed by Patrick Hughes, who previously given us some action films such as The Expendables 3, which is probably the second worst of Expendables film, but he gave us The Hitman's Bodyguard, which I enjoyed. I really enjoyed Hitman's Bodyguard. Not so much Hitman's Bodyguard's wife, which he also directed, but I did like that first film. War Machine is something that was on my radar, and let me just start off by saying this is the worst possible time to release this movie. It is such bad timing to release a film called War Machine during these treacherous times that we are currently going through. But nonetheless, we're here, and this is a movie that was on my radar. I wanted to see it when I first saw the trailer for it, and I'm a big Alan Ritchson fan, going all the way back to what was that show? It was just on the tip of my tongue. The League, I think it was called The League, where he played a jock, a dumb jock. Also, going back to Smallville, believe it or not, and he portrayed Aquaman on Smallville. And or was it Smallville? No, it was a spinoff. It was a pilot that didn't go through, but he was the initial choice to play Aquaman on that show. But going to Titans, where he played Hawk, he was awesome on that. He was one of the Ninja Turtle. I think he was Michelangelo on the live action Ninja Turtle films, the recent ones. Of course, you wouldn't know that if unless you read the credits because of the motion capture CGI. But he was one of the turtles, and most recently on Reacher. I'm a big Reacher fan, Jack Reacher fan. Love the movie, the first movie. The second movie with Tom Cruise was it was all right, but the first movie was awesome. Fell in love with that character, but I understood that character wasn't how it's presented in the book series. And so when they did the TV show on Prime Video, they wanted a accurate depiction of that character. And who else would it be but Alan Ritchson? That is a huge human being. Alan Ritchson is he has to be what 6'5", 280 or something. I don't know, but he's a big dude, nothing, just solid muscle. And so, of course, I'm patiently awaiting to see him in some action movies, as this action star because of his size, his presentation. And here we go with War Machine. Now, I was hoping and wishing for something bigger for him, no pun intended, as far as theatrical, because he is a good actor. He's a really good actor. And I would love to see him lead a franchise and something. I know at one point, a lot of rumors were he was going to be the Batman in the James Gunn DC universe. And at first I didn't see it. I was like, he's too big for Bruce Wayne. But then, when you really watch Reacher, you're like, yeah, I can probably see him as Batman. I can dig it. It's something different. But that's beyond the point. We're talking about War Machine. And in War Machine, he plays this staff sergeant who he went through a tragedy, just to put it kindly. I don't want to go through spoilers here. But a tragedy happens in the beginning of this film that involves his unit and whatnot, and he's basically trying to bounce back from that, and he enlists in this selection process to become an Army Ranger, which consists of a process like I would the best thing I can compare it to is Navy SEALs, but not as treacherous as Navy SEALs. Navy SEALs go through, oh boy, you go you go through a lot to become a Navy SEAL, but you also go through a lot to become a Ranger. You know, that's the top tier in the Army, just like Navy SEALs are the top tier in the Marines. And so you get the brunt of it because this film really showcased a lot of what that process is. Now, is it accurate or not? I don't know. I wasn't in the Army. You need a veteran or a serviceman to tell me if this is a accurate depiction of what Rangers have to go through to become a full-fledged Army Ranger. But it's a lot. And so that was cool to see, you know, the trials and tribulations of going through this process and showing his character who doesn't have a name. Nobody in this movie has a name. They have a name, but not during this process. You just have a number. Your script of everything, your script of your name and your ranks and so on and so forth as you go through this process. So everybody has a number. And so his character has something to prove to himself going through this program. And so it was good to see that. I love the development of his character. I love his arc. As far as Alan Ritchson in this film, he's the best thing in the film. It's truly his movie. He really carries this movie. Once again, no pun intended, because he does a lot of carrying in this movie. Especially when stuff goes down, and he really he gave it his all. I really believed that he was an Army Ranger, that he was a military man, that somebody who was capable of doing this. I mean, when you look at him, yeah, but to actually see him do it was something to behold. The supporting cast here, Dennis Quaid was there. He was in the movie, maybe 5 minutes, and that's total. And I think he was in maybe 3 scenes, but it was wasted. Esai Morales, who I adore, been on Esai Morales train ever since La Bamba. That's how far back I go with him. Really enjoy seeing him in this. He was great. The time he was on screen, he was awesome. Everybody else, Stephan James was also, I think he was the second best performance in this film. A good counter to Alan Ritchson's Ritchson's character. Everybody else in this movie, they were just there to be slaughtered by this machine. It was nothing there. That leads me to the negative. I got more positives, but I'll save that to later. Let's jump into the negatives and get it out the way. My negatives here, the movie didn't really ramp up until literally 35 minutes into it. You really went through so much to get to the meat of this story. While you clicked on Netflix to watch this, you have to wait 35 minutes to get to any ounce of action, you know, outside of the training. And that's what the first 35 minutes was, the training. And I get it. Yeah, we did need to see it. We did need to experience some of the things that they were doing, but we had to see every single trial that these guys and girls as well had to go through. And it got to a point where it was repetitive and it was getting kind of dry. And I found myself looking at my watch. I'm like, okay, when are we gonna get to the meat and potatoes of this meal? We're sitting here eating the broccoli. I'm ready for a steak, and you had to wait. And it just felt long. It drug. Normally, it's fine if you take your time, or not take your time. Let me take that back, or reword that. it's fine if you're doing some character development there. You was developing Alan Ritchson's character, but nobody else's. Nobody else got the development, and they was showcasing everybody else, but it was nothing there for them. Nobody cared about these other characters. It they were glorified extras, and I mean that with all due respect. All respect to everybody who was in this film, all the performers. But come on, it was it was it was pointless scenes, and it was a waste of time, I felt. But once we hit that 35-minute mark, it was off to the races. I mean, once the main threat shows up, it was balls to the wall. I had a good time watching that. This threat, this alien threat that is hunting down this unit. Like it had shades of Predator, the original with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Carl Weathers and all them. It had shades of that, but it wasn't quite that. This was more of a machine that was hunting them down one by one, and it wasn't cloaked. It wasn't cunning and smart like that. This was just a walking tank that was indestructible, and they had no weapons. They had nothing. All they could do is run. And that was basically what they were doing the entire movie, just running. There was no fighting back. We get to a point where there is fighting back, but it was to no avail. It was like, okay. Too bad, so sad. And that leads me to my other negative. They tried everything to destroy this machine. Everything in their power, I should say. Even when they did get weapons, it was to no avail. And the end result, the final end result on how they took down this machine was so primitive, so easy, and silly, and convenient. It was almost lazy writing, man. It was like, oh my God. And so you just stumble upon this place that can take down this machine. I can't buy that. I just couldn't buy that to save my life. Even though it was a cool scene when they finally took it down. But it was just so convenient. It's it's like a 12-year-old wrote this. I mean that wholeheartedly. It was so simple. And the film had the audacity to set up more of these things. It's a full-on invasion of these things. And it's like, okay, how are y'all really gonna stop these things? Oh, I almost spoiled it. Anyways, whatever. But those are my negatives. My positives, like I said, Alan Ritchson was money. Stephan James was money. Esai Morales was money. The visual effects was really good. It wasn't great, but it was really good. It's an improvement for Netflix because some of their visual effects films that pop up on Netflix don't look all that good. Now, there were some spotty moments throughout the film, where it's just obvious green screens, but for the vast majority, the visual effects look good. The design of the machine was awesome. It was like, what's the name of that robot that was on RoboCop? The what was it? Ed 209, I think it was called. The Ed 209. It was like that, but upgrade on steroids. That's what it looked like. And I love that design. And it worked. It worked for the film. It didn't come off as silly or goofy looking. It really came off alien. It came off believable, like this is an alien machine. And so I was really happy to see the design, the full design. They didn't hide it. They went, as soon as it was revealed, it was revealed. There was no Jaws shark here that you had to wait till almost the end of the movie to see the shark. No, we saw this once it arrived. We knew exactly what this thing could do, what it looked like, and what it was about. some of the camera work in this movie is awesome. Some of the shots were just next level. And I was a little it's a positive, but it's a negative at the same time, because those shots that I'm talking about, like the shot when they were in their tank, they found this RV thing, the army tank. That was cool. You know, the way they moved the camera through the tank when they were fighting back against the machine. That was a cool sequence they did there. But that's the only time that the camera really moved around and shifted like that. Now, granted, this was a different pace scene, or a highly paced scene. And so the camera matched the pace of the scene. My only gripe is I wish we would have had more scenes like that. You know, there were scenes of heightened tense, moments throughout where you could have used the camera like that. There was a scene when they were trying to cross this ravine. That would have been cool, but they didn't do that, and I'm not the director. They knew what was best. It was still a cool scene anyway. But the action was great. I liked the action. Didn't have a problem with that at all. Overall, I did enjoy the movie. It was fine. I don't see myself clicking on it just to click on it again. But if it's on, if I'm doing something around the house or something and I want to play something in the background, I would do this. I would click on it again just to have it on in the background. If anything, for any reason, the performance by Alan Ritchson is great. This is really a good performance. This is one of his better performances. I'll go as far to say that. And I know that's weird because Reacher was great. He was great in other things, but this, I don't know. It just felt more personal and more real. I just felt this. And it didn't really belong in this movie. It's weird. It's weird. But it helped it overall, because if it wasn't for him, if this was just a Joe Blow, Kevin Reed starring in this movie, it would be trash. But he made the film feel more authentic. That's why I'm giving War Machine, which is currently on Netflix, a letter grade of a C+. Yeah, I think it's a great Netflix movie. Overall movie is good. But it's a great Netflix movie, hands down. But I would love to know, what's your thoughts of War Machine? Did you like it? Did you watch it? Did you want to watch it? I would love to know. Email the show, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can also search for the show on all social media platforms. Just search for the KB Radio Network. Also, don't forget about YouTube. Subscribe to the KB Radio Network channel and like this video if you don't mind. Don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me for this review of War Machine. Want you all to know that I love you, continue to love everyone, and until we speak again, you all be blessed.